is a really cool challenge to set Shakespeare to music, which I've never done before. I've mostly, obviously, only set my own lyrics to music or written music and then written lyrics around it. So the idea of taking something that's already written, that already has this very solid rhyme structure, and then setting it to music was a really cool challenge. And I asked my songwriting partner, Marky, if he would be interested in doing it with me, of like co-writing it with me. And he was like really into the idea. We've talked about the idea of like film soundtracks and things before too, sort of as a pie in the sky thing. So it seemed like a first, like basically an invitation to try something that we'd always wanted to try. So that's where that came from. And for the style of the piece, I mean, obviously it's going to be electronic music because that's our oeuvre, that's like what we do, and that's the instruments that we use and things. We ended up, it was like a little challenging because the Shakespeare is an iambic pentameter, which is actually sort of requires something different than writing in 4/4 time, which is what pop music is mostly in. So trying to like figure out how to like what meter to set it in was interesting, and I honestly can't remember what meter we ended up setting it in, but we had to find something that went with a which is different than this like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. So setting it in that different meter sort of gave us an idea of like what the rhythm was going to be, and based on that we could kind of determine like, is this going to be a fast piece or a slow piece. We actually looked to find out like what, because like the music scale, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, like scales change from culture to culture and like time period to time period, like throughout history. So we set it in a Dorian scale, which is different than the modern scale that we use today. That's what they would have used in Pericles' time. So that also gave us like a set of notes to work from. So when we were working on like figuring out what kind of chords you'd hear, what notes you would hear in the song, and that really set like a mood for the piece, like figuring out like the timing and figuring out what notes, like what collection of notes we had to use from like what scale. And it gave it this kind of dark sound, which we thought was really appropriate to the introductory subject matter of the terrible king. So yeah, so that's how that went to start with. I mean, I love how experimental it is, and I like that it is like accessible to whoever wants it. And I think that's one of the things that makes Shakespeare in the Park special, and I like that you all continued that tradition into a year when things were difficult and you guys could have just said, you know, well, I guess we're just not doing anything this year. So I think it was like wonderfully innovative, and I love how accessible it is. I love how diverse it is. Like, I thought it was a really great project.